Hi, welcome back to On the Volley. My name's Matt, and I'm just going to go through a story coming out today about Chelsea Football Club and the sanctions imposed on Roman Abramovich. Now, this is developing news. It's been going on all day. I've been able to discern from what's been said in the media, I'm just going to share with you now. Maybe if you haven't had a chance to read through what's been said today. Basically, they've frozen all his assets, and that does include Chelsea Football Club. Now, Chelsea, under these rules, will not be able to make any financial transactions. They'll be able to operate as a football club and still pay their staff salaries. They'll be able to pay up to $20,000 for accommodation on away trips and $500,000 to host home matches in the overall cost of running a home match. But they won't be allowed to make any negotiations in terms of financial transactions, including renewing players' contracts, which at the moment is actually quite significant, because two main players, and maybe Andreas Christensen isn't one of their main players at the moment, but Rudiger and Azpilicueta are, and they are due to have their contracts expire in June this year. We understand that these sanctions are imposed in place until then, at least, which also, under the terms of the sanctions, means that Roman Abramovich isn't able to sell Chelsea. So even if there is an interested party to buy Chelsea at the moment, and I'm sure there's several. In fact, I think they've actually said that there's over 10 interested parties in buying Chelsea. They won't be able to make the purchase because of the fact that Roman Abramovich is not allowed to receive any monies from the sale of Chelsea Football Club due to these financial regulations. Now, obviously, that will have an impact on these players re-signing for the club. I think Rudiger was pretty heavily rumoured to be leaving anyway, but Azpilicueta wasn't. I don't think. I think he was actually sat down at the table in negotiations about a new contract. So yeah, I mean, this is a huge impact on the club. Obviously, the fans won't be able to even buy tickets for the games. Season ticket holders and tickets that have already been sold will be honoured. But yeah, I mean, Chelsea in 2 cup competitions, so they won't be able to sell the tickets for the away game against Middlesbrough. Should they reach the semi-final, which will be held at Wembley, they won't be able to sell tickets directly to the fans to attend that. Prospects of half of Wembley being empty for one of the semi-finals, even a final, with that prospect. I'm sure the FA will figure out something in order to be able to sell those tickets via their outlets in order to make that sure that doesn't happen. Then obviously the Champions League as well, which they won't be able to sell tickets for those, which are obviously not part of a season ticket. So we won't be able to sell home fan tickets for any quarter-final game or semi-final game should they progress in the Champions League next week. They're playing tonight, so they've got the games on tonight. They are supposed to be honouring their fixtures until the end of the season. That's been put into these restrictions. This is a big spanner in the works for Chelsea and their operations. Obviously, they're not allowed to have any commercial activity either at the moment. We know why these have been imposed. We know they've been imposed because of the war in Ukraine and Abramovich's links to Putin. He is an oligarch. We know that money came from essentially the Russian state. Therefore, he's got some loyalties back to Russia. That is apparent. That's well reported throughout the media. His ties with Putin. He was even asked to become the negotiator between the Ukraine and Russia by the Ukraine President Zelensky. Now, this money has been floating around London for decades. The city of London has become a laundry for money for Russian oligarchs and dirty money from around the world, including the independent territories, overseas territories. So this money has been around for a long time, and only now are the government doing anything about it. So this isn't actually a clampdown on that particular money, if you like, because what they've actually come out and stated is the reason why Abramovich is being sanctioned is not because of the money that he has as an oligarch and the money that's being pushed through London. It's because of his ownership of a company called Avraz, which is essentially a steel company registered in the UK, but is set up essentially by Russian billionaires, run by Russian billionaires. And Avraz is a steel company where they have majority of their operations are in Russia, and they produce steel, which is being used in tanks and weaponry. And this is where they've essentially made the connection to enable them to impose sanctions on Abramovich. Obviously, that connection is not going to go away anytime soon. He's not able to sell his assets anymore in the UK. He did try and sell Chelsea before the sanctions were imposed. He also tried to push ownership into the Chelsea Foundation and have the club run through them. I'm not sure how that would have worked. He would still obviously be a beneficiary of any commercial activity that the club makes. So, yeah, as I say, it's an ongoing story. I'm sure it will continue in the news for the next few days, if not weeks. Hopefully for Chelsea fans, it will be resolved as quickly as possible. As I say, they've got a number of interested parties. The valuation is anywhere from 1 billion to 3 billion, depending on where you read it. I'm guessing 3 billion was if you were going to buy it off Abramovich when he didn't want to sell it. He now obviously needs to sell it, even though he's not able to at the moment. There may be a negotiation made in terms of with the government to obviously get him out of the football club, but he will not be able to benefit from any of the proceeds of that sale. It's a big chunk of cash, it's going to be a big chunk of cash anyway. It probably represents around about a fifth of his overall wealth, so he's not going to give that up for nothing. I wouldn't have thought, even though he did say he was going to contribute from the sale to the victims of the war in Ukraine. This is an evolving news story. If we find anything out that we'd like to share with you, we'll try. I'll probably put it in the comments on these videos rather than make another actual video itself on this. But yeah, it's quite a shock. It's quite a shock to see these reports. I knew it was on the cards from a couple of weeks ago, but to actually see it in action is quite a shock. I'm sure it is a massive shock to anyone who is involved with Chelsea Football Club. So all the best to them, all the best to the fans. I hope you get a quick resolution to this. From me, Matt, I'm out.